Hey Facebook, what's going on? It's Meteorologist Cody Murphy here. We are with another edition of Weather School for Kids, and today we're going to do a couple of cool space experiments where we are going to make an impact crater, sort of like what happens on the moon. So it's kind of a cool little thing here. So again, if you're just joining, I'm Meteorologist Cody Murphy, Weather School for Kids. We are going to create moon craters here with some simple things around the house, okay? Let me just check the screen real quick. There we go. Alrighty, so a couple things that you'll need for this experiment. You'll need some help. This is Bailey, my long-haired dachshund, so she's always down to help, especially when there's a whiff of food around. You know, dogs are always around for that. So sorry, Bailey, no sprinkles for you today. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, so this is what we'll need. We'll need a baking sheet, just your basic round will work. And if you don't even have a baking sheet, you can use anything that has kind of a lip on it. So if you have like a cooking pan or a round cooking pan, that works just as fine too. So you'll be in good shape with that too. So another thing you will need is we will need cocoa powder, okay? You'll need some sprinkles, and these will kind of enact or reenact basically the rocks that are already on the moon. And then we'll also need some cooking flour, all-purpose flour, all right? That's all you need. And then just go in the backyard and find 2 or 3 rocks, okay? And then we'll be able to get this thing going. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to create craters on the moon. The moon gets impacted by craters hundreds of times a day, thousands of times a year. Anytime you look at the full bright moon, you can always see, on a clear night anyways, you see those little cracks and crevices and craters on the moon from here on Earth. So, I mean, some of these craters are huge in size. We're talking miles wide. We're not going to create anything like that here, but we'll kind of recreate sort of what happens here on the moon. So step 1, undo and pull out your baking sheet if you haven't one. And then what we'll do is we'll pour in enough all-purpose flour to kind of coat the entire baking sheet, okay? Now this is going to be a little messy, so if you want to put down a piece of newspaper or something to kind of collect some of this dust, that would be super handy. I'm not going to. I'm not really bothered by messes. That's kind of the fun part, I think, is kind of making the mess and then cleaning it up a little later. So there we go. I've kind of put my all-purpose flour in there, all right? I've evened it out just kind of by shaking it, making a nice even coat. What we'll do next is we'll add in a few sprinkles. And these sprinkles will, again, represent crater or meteors that have already impacted the moon, all right? There's already hundreds of thousands of those on the moon, so you don't need a lot. Just enough to kind of coat it and get it a little colorful down there. So we'll just sprinkle in a couple of sprinkles, which I will say that I'm very surprised that I had sprinkles in the pantry. A lot of my experiments, if you've joined me before, I try to find things around the house without having to get out and go to the store, since we are in the whole social distancing and quarantining right now. So you don't have to coat it entirely, but I did put a couple of sprinkles in there. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get it up close to the camera. So you see I have my all-purpose flour in there, and then I have my sprinkles, which will represent rocks that have already been landed on the moon. Next step is to take your cocoa powder, and as good as you can get it, all right? Just kind of make it like an even spread around your baking dish. You might have to use a little bit of cocoa powder, so if you don't have a lot of it, just kind of be sparing with it, if you will. But I'm going to coat pretty much this entire pan here, and once I'm done, I will show you what it looks like. So the all-purpose flour is pretty much what is representing what the moon is made of, and then this cocoa powder on top, that is representing the surface of the moon, okay? Let me get a little more. I'm gonna have to break this up a little bit. So we'll keep going here. Of course, my cocoa powder isn't as fine as I'd want it to be, but that's okay. All right, I'll spread this out a little bit, kind of give it a nice little even coat. So there we go. So this is what it looks like, okay? So now we have underneath, this is the cocoa powder on top. Underneath this, we have a couple of sprinkles, and then underneath the sprinkles, we have all-purpose flour, okay? So the flour, again, represents the moon and what it's made of. The sprinkles represent the meteors that have already impacted the moon, so ones that are already there right now. And then the cocoa powder is representing the surface of the moon, all right? So the next step, and again, this is super easy to do at home, is just go find a couple of different sized rocks outside. I even thought about using candy, like Reese's Pieces or something like that, but I just found some rocks, and these will work just fine. So once you get your experiment set up, what we'll do is we'll then take a piece of paper for the kids and write down about how high up you dropped your rock down to the surface of the moon, okay? And then write down the distance and then also the relative size of the rock, because depending on what size of the rock you have will impact how big of a crater that you get, okay? So obviously the bigger the rock, the meteor, the bigger the crater will be once it impacts the moon. And then vice versa. If you have a super small rock or meteor, then you're not going to have as big of an impact crater, okay? So let's do experiment number 1. This is trial number 1 here, folks. So again, we've got our moon built right here. And what we'll do is we'll drop a rock and see what happens, okay? Let me get a little closer. All right, here we go. In 3, 2. Okay, do you see that? All right, so that's fun. Stuff shot everywhere, right? So let me just get in front of the camera a little bit. So you can see our rock fell into the moon and it created a little bit of a crater. You see how there's more white now around where the rock impacted? Well, that's because the meteor or the rock fell into the surface of the moon and dug into the ground. It's pretty simple how it works. And then so pull out your meteor, your rock, and then you can see these different striations and how aligned, these are called rays, how they kind of get thrown everywhere. So again, it's as simple as that, folks. That is the experiment for the kids today. Just take a couple of different sized rocks and then have them impact the moon. It is as simple as that. And then once you do it a couple of times, you'll get some good craters here in your dish, and you can actually see that you have made a couple of craters. And this is exactly what happens on the surface of the moon. Let me get a little closer again. So you can kind of see there's a hole there, there's another hole there, another crater I made. It might be a little difficult to see with my camera here, but once you do this experiment at home, you will know exactly what it looks like. But again, it's as simple as that. It's a fun little moon experiment for the kids. This is good for all ages, especially K through about 4th grade. This is a really fun experiment. It's super simple. All you need is all-purpose flour. You need some cocoa powder, some sprinkles if you got it. If you don't have sprinkles, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't go out to the store and go buy it if you don't need to. If you don't have to, don't worry about the sprinkles. But I just happen to have it, so it adds to the experiment. You'll need a cooking dish or some kind of pan with a lip on it, so we can kind of keep everything kind of contained. But that is as simple as it is, folks. And the experiment for the kids, moms and dads, if they're just joining us, have a piece of paper and a pen down and write down relative what size rock you grabbed and about how far you dropped it down to the crater. So that's as simple as it is, folks. Super cool experiment to do at home. Thanks for joining. This is Weather School for Kids. We're doing this 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Myself, Lisa Spencer, Dan Thomas, Melanie Layden, and Laura Bannon, we're all doing these fun experiments for the kids since they're stuck at home right now and school's not in session. So we're just trying to make it fun and interactive for all the kids out there. So if you have any ideas for us to demonstrate, please let me know. I'm a big space guy, so if you have any space stuff, especially send it to me. I love to show these kinds of things. But again, this is what we're going to do for the foreseeable future, 5 days a week. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, you don't really need a whole lot of things to do these experiments at home. Of course, if you got a little help, that always helps out. This is Bailey. She's my little space cadet for today. Yeah, working hard there, Bailey. Already laid out. So, anyways, folks, hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, do this experiment at home. Record it. Post it back. Let me see what you got and what you came up with and what sort of experiments you were able to recreate there at your house. Everybody stay safe out there. Again, thanks for joining. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, anything like that, go back into this video, ask the questions. I'm going to go back in here in a couple of minutes and I'll read some of your questions, see if I can't not help answer some of them for you. But in the meantime, guys, hopefully you have a great day and be safe out there.